Sometimes invitations come. They sound warm, they sound, let us pray together. It seems wise, it seems uplifting, but look deeply. Does prayer need a place? Does prayer need a hall? Does prayer need a special time? Does God need a voice, a language, or a book to understand? Prayer can happen anywhere, anytime. Without a hall, without a schedule, without permission, and yet the words say, we together shall pray. Notice this carefully. The word we already means many. The word together already implies separation, those included and those not. Before the prayer even begins, division has quietly entered. One place says prayer this way, another says prayer that way. One prays to images, one prays to statues, one prays to words in the book, one prays to an imagined idea of God. The mind adds rules, the mind adds forms, the mind adds separation. Here, hands must be folded, there, arms are raised, here, the head must be covered. And even if someone comes with folded hands to follow the rules, and someone else comes raised armed, uncovered head, facing another idea of God, what happens to that togetherness? Not because God rejected them, not because prayer failed, God does not exclude. It is the rule that excludes, it is the idea that has no mercy, it is the conditioned mind that insists on form. In the name of prayer, someone is corrected, someone is warned, someone is asked to leave, not by God, but by conditioned minds protecting an idea. There is a clash, there is a conflict, there is a comparison, even silence becomes divided. God does not divide. Just like the space allows everything to appear, it does not differentiate, it does not insist on forms, names, postures, or time. The division is entirely in the conditioned mind. It is the mind that says this is correct, that is wrong. It is the mind that imposes identity, method, and rituals. It is the mind that fights to be right, to belong. Until this is seen clearly, the mind remains trapped in division. It may spend a lifetime following instructions, performing rituals, never realizing that together it is chasing is just an illusion. Prayer does not need a hall, prayer does not need a posture, prayer does not need agreement. All that is needed is clarity, seeing that separation is imagined and that all forms are temporary expressions in the same space. Only thought assumes a God, the Almighty, the All Knowing, the Timeless, who needs to be impressed, who needs to hear a voice, who needs to see a posture, who will be pleased only if all follow exactly the same steps. But if Almighty is truly all knowing, all powerful, and ever present, does it not already know what you are feeling? Does it not already see your heart? Does it not already know your thoughts, your fears, your intentions? Does it only hear you when you speak aloud, or does it also see how life is lived when no prayers is happening? Does it see when one is unfair to another, when a partner is not honest with their spouse, when promises are spoken but not lived? Does it notice kindness shown in public and withheld in private? Does it see when the care is offered selectively, when favor is given to some and denied to others? Does it see respect performed in rituals but forgotten in daily life? Does it see wisdom worn like clothing while fear, ambition, and self interest quietly decide actions? If the Almighty is all knowing, does it only receive what is said in prayers, or does it see the whole movement of a life lived personally? And if prayer is sincere, can it exist only in words and postures while life itself moves in contradiction? Does it need your hand folded in a certain way, dressed in certain colors or style, your voices raised, your eyes lowered, your head covered or uncovered in exactly the correct way so that the prayer can be heard? If that is the case, then what kind of God is this? A God who needs rules, postures, colors, voices, and covering to be satisfied. A God who is picky, controlling, and bound by form, or these are just imaginary gods, ideas created by the mind dressed up as divinity. All of this is just imagination, not the one knows by many names, not the timeless, the all knowing, the ever present. It does none of these. Even after death, people gather, prayer are spoken for peace, for the soul to rest, for suffering to end. But look honestly at the facts. If the Almighty is merciful, would it allow pain to continue after death until words are spoken here? Would peace depend on ceremony or money spent on how many people gather, on which scriptures are read, or who performs the rituals? Does God only hear a qualified person, a prayer from a qualified person offered by the right person in the right place, and not a family member sitting quietly at home asking for a peace? And more simply still, without a body there is no pain. Without a body there is no hunger, no fear, no sensation of this world. Pain belongs to nerves, suffering belongs to the body and the mind. When the body ends, what is there left to hurt? Does a soul wait disturbed until prayer reach it from thousands of voices? Does peace arrive only after the right words spoken in the right place by the right people? Or is this another story created by the living, not from the dead, but for their own comfort, their own fear of ending? Thousands are spent, ceremonies are performed, crowds gather, yet none of these touches what is timeless. What has no body cannot be wounded. What has no form cannot suffer. What is ever present does not wait for permission, and even more, if in showing respect you compete, you compare or clash with others, if you argue about who prays correctly or who is included in this so called together, does that show respect? Or does it reveal the opposite? Division, attachment, and misunderstanding, right in the name of honoring the Almighty. Prayers does not need proof. Prayer does not need method. Prayers does not need agreements. All it needs is presence. All it needs is clarity. Then prayer becomes prayer. Not divided, not measured, not claimed, simply, silently, endlessly, like the space in which all it appears. If it is believed that the Almighty can awaken the dead, raise bones from graves, and call life back from nothing, then that same Almighty needs no voice to hear, no words to understand, no posture to recognize sincerity. What can call life out of dust does not wait for sound. What can gather the dead does not need reminders. What can judge all existence already knows every thought, every fear, every intention before it is spoken. So prayer cannot be information, it cannot be a signal, it cannot be a request sent upward. If words were needed, then the God would be limited. If forms were required, then God would be selective. If rituals were essential, then this God would be controlled by methods, and that is not the Almighty described. What is all knowing cannot be informed. What is all present cannot be reached. What is timeless cannot be delayed. When this is seen clearly, prayer is no longer bargaining, no longer fear, no longer performing. It becomes silence. It becomes humility. It becomes the end of pretending that the infinite needs instructions. You can pray anywhere you like. That Almighty does not need a special person who did PhD in some sort of religion that it will only hear from those people. What kind of God is it? That cannot already know, cannot see where you are, what you need, and you can simply pray